I, of late 20s, am the oldest and only girl of 5 siblings. I babysat my brothers growing up, but I wasn't allowed to discipline them in any way. As a result, my brothers fought, hurt each other, broke things, ate food my mom was saving for dinner, etc. I was blamed for all of this and punished. My dad frequently told me to treat them like your own sons. One of my brothers was special needs, meaning medical emergencies could happen at any time. I wasn't always sure of what to do, and my parents weren't always easy to get a hold of. I was also voluntold to babysit for my mom's friends for free. They would always stay out about 3 hours late, and I'd be home after midnight. Because of all of these things, I made a choice as an adult to never babysit ever again. I have severe anxiety that I've been in therapy for, coming from my teenage years due to balancing school, work, extracurriculars, and babysitting, and feeling like I had no help or comfort from any of my family members. On Christmas, the topic of kids and babysitting came up when someone asked if birth order affected personality. There was some back and forth, but I said, I think it does. When I was questioned about my reasoning, I just said that I had to be responsible in different ways than they had to. I was told I was being dramatic, then was pushed for more. I asked my youngest brother if he ever had to be responsible for younger siblings, and he, of course, said no. I said that babysitting them put a lot of responsibility on me that I didn't consider appropriate for my age and maturity level, and that they'd never had to go through that. I also explained that I had to go without a lot of our parents' attention so they could have it. Example: they missed my fencing tournaments and orchestra concerts to go watch my brother's wrestling practices. After all of that, everyone was quiet until my dad said, "So you don't believe in family responsibility?" I explained that I do, but that there was a point where the amount of responsibility wasn't appropriate for one kid to handle. I also said that I don't think kids should be forced to babysit their siblings because it creates an unhealthy dynamic between them. My dad responded with, "I didn't have to feed you or keep you in the house." I asked him what he thought would happen if he didn't do those things for me as a kid. He said, "I'd have a skinny, cold kid." For more context, aside from my wedding and $300 for rent one time, I never asked for anything from my parents after I left at 18. I thought about asking what he thought was his responsibility as a father, but I realized he wasn't taking me seriously, so I dropped the topic. I was told I was being ridiculous, and that I should let things from the past go. I'm wondering if I'm TA because my parents did need a lot of help with their kids growing up, especially with my special needs brother. I do also believe in responsibility to one's family, but clearly my line is different from theirs. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I firmly believe in this. I have an 11-year-old and a 2-year-old. People are always saying, "Oh, that's perfect. The older one can watch the younger one." No, just no. My older child isn't a built-in babysitter. Now, if he wanted to watch the younger one to make money, I'm all for that, but it's his choice. Not to say I won't tell him to keep an eye on his younger brother for 3 minutes while I go to the garage to put some laundry in the washer or something. But I'm not going to step out for hours at a time and make him the parent while I'm gone. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your father did have to feed and house you. You, on the other hand, were not legally obligated to any babysitting, let alone treat them as your sons. Your parents were not fair to you. Yeah, some babysitting is fine, but it sounds like your brothers were favored over you, and your father was being a weenie at Christmas. If your parents couldn't handle 5 kids without turning you into their nanny, they should have stopped having kids at 2 or 3. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a hectic few days, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty interesting. So, after the whole Christmas debacle, things seemed to cool off for a bit. My parents and I didn't talk much, which was nothing new, but I could feel the tension whenever we were in the same room. My brothers, well, they were just being themselves, oblivious to the storm brewing. But then, 2 days ago, my youngest brother, the one who never had to babysit, called me up out of the blue. He said he needed a huge favor. His wife was in labor with their first child, and he needed someone to watch their dog. I was hesitant, but the memory of being the responsible one kicked in, and I agreed. I went over, and things were fine at first. The dog was a sweetheart, and I was actually enjoying the peace and quiet. But then, my brother came back, and he wasn't alone. He had our parents with him, and I could tell something was off. They were all smiles, talking about the new baby, but the air was heavy with unspoken words. My dad, in his typical fashion, started talking about how family should always be there for each other, how I was doing the right thing by helping out. It felt like a slap in the face, considering our last conversation. I tried to keep my cool, but then he said something that made my blood boil. He mentioned how I'd always been the caretaker and how some things never change. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I confronted him about how he and Mom had always pushed the responsibility onto me, how they'd never been there for my important moments because they were too busy with my brothers. I told him how that had affected me, how it had contributed to my anxiety. My brother, the new dad, he tried to mediate, but it was clear he didn't get it. He'd never had to sacrifice his time and energy the way I did. And then the heartbreak hit. My mom, who had been quiet this whole time, finally spoke up. She said that they had always known I was strong enough to handle it, that they had relied on me because I was the one they didn't have to worry about. It was meant to be a compliment, I think, but it felt like a betrayal. All those years of feeling second best, of being the afterthought, it was because they thought I didn't need them. I was devastated. I had always thought that maybe they didn't see what they were doing to me, but this was worse. They saw, and they chose to do it anyway. The argument escalated, and I ended up leaving, the dog forgotten in the chaos. I went home, and I cried. I cried for the little girl who just wanted her parents to see her, for the teenager who had to grow up too fast, and for the adult who still couldn't escape her past. Yesterday, my brother called to apologize. He said he didn't realize how much I had been through, how different our experiences had been. He asked if I would come to see the baby, to be the aunt I never had the chance to be. I wanted to say yes, I really did, but I couldn't. Not yet. I told him I needed time, that I had to work through some things first, and that's where I am now. I'm trying to figure out how to move forward, how to reconcile the love I have for my family with the pain they've caused me. It's not easy, and I don't have all the answers, but I'm working on it. I'm working on finding a way to be part of my family without losing myself in the process. My mom's boyfriend has been living with us for 7 years, and he enjoys making me angry. Well, today I got my sweet revenge. Long-time lurker, but made a new account for this. My female 17-year-old, parents have been divorced for 12 years. I've spent equal time at their houses since. 7 years ago, Mum started dating Gary, male in his 40s, fake name. Ever since they started dating, I've never liked him. We butt heads, he gets enjoyment out of making people angry, and Gary has taken his anger out on me. One time, he called me an a-hole and blamed me for his and my mum's temporary breakup. I was 11. He blamed me because I first expressed discomfort about him to my mum. Ever since, I've felt fear of being myself or expressing anything but fake happiness around him. Since 2020, my mum and siblings moved into Gary's house, and it's only made the tension worse. The times when I haven't taken his bait and not react to his inflammatory comments, he's called me a miserable a-hole. But if I stand up to him or question him, he threatens me with kicking me out because I'm ungrateful. I hate living with him. I lock myself in my room to avoid him during weekends. I don't know how to act around him. My dad knows how I feel about Gary. Before we moved in with him, Dad and I made a deal to try to get along with him. For the most part, I just smiled and nodded, only speaking when spoken to. I find it so hard to even try to get along with him when I know he likes to try to make me upset. Anytime I've slipped up and spoken up, Dad's told me to keep trying to keep the peace. I've thought about being at my dad's more to avoid Gary. Here's the incident that's tipped me over the edge lately. For context, there's a rule at our house about food stealing. If it has someone else's name, you aren't allowed to eat it. A rule Gary made. I had a packet of chocolate in the fridge, which he saw me write my name on it. One day, I go to have some chocolate, and I saw there was less chocolate in the packet than when I left with. Gary grins at me and said, "That was some good chocolate, ramen noodles." I was stunned for a second. This is where I might be an a-hole. I snapped. "You broke your own rule, Gary. My name was on the packet. What gives?" Gary snapped back. "Well, I never made that rule." My mum, who was in the vicinity, said, "Yes, you were the one who made the rule." Gary pulled out some snacks from the pantry. He basically said, "Well, I buy all this food for you. Should I label it too? If you can't share yourself, then you're so overdramatic, honestly." Then he left. I was flabbergasted. My sister later said he labelled all the snacks in the pantry and fridge with my siblings' names, but not mine. I don't care about him eating my chocolate. I care about how he can't apologise and plays immature games. I'm sick of constantly feeling like I'm playing a character too scared to speak out. I want to spend more time at my dad's house away from Gary because of stuff like this. Would I be the a-hole if I admitted this? Edit to add. My dad has been friends with Gary for over 15 years. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. So basically, Gary's rule is that what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine. That way, if his name is on something, don't touch, but anyone else's name means nothing, because he buys all the snacks for the house. He's the jerk, and he's targeting you. If no one takes you seriously about wanting to switch homes, get a counselor from school involved. If need be, go as far as CPS. You don't need this bullying freaking up your self-esteem for the rest of your life. Comment 2. Not the idiot. The adults are, though, including your father. Your mom is for allowing her partner to bully her children, her partner for being a bully towards children, and your father for continuously telling you to keep the peace rather than stepping up and confronting the bully for the sake of his own child. Edited for a typo. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post, and I've got to say, things have taken some unexpected turns. So, after the whole chocolate incident, I decided I'd had enough. I talked to my dad about spending more time at his place. He was hesitant at first, reminding me of our deal to try and get along with Gary, but I could tell he was worried about me. He's always been the one person who gets how I feel about Gary, even though they've been friends for so long. Now, here's where things get crazy. My dad sat me down and told me something I never knew. Years ago, before my parents split, Gary had actually been interested in my mom, but she chose my dad, and they got married. Gary never really got over it, and when my parents divorced, he saw it as his chance. My dad thinks that's why Gary's always had it out for me, because I'm a constant reminder of what he couldn't have. I was shocked. It made sense, though, in a twisted way. Gary's anger towards me wasn't just random, it was personal. But wait, it gets even more messed up. My dad had been keeping an eye on Gary, and he noticed something off. Gary had been sneaking around, and my dad suspected he was hiding something. So my dad did a little digging and found out that Gary had been fired from his job months ago. He'd been pretending to go to work every day, but he was actually going who knows where. When I heard this, I was floored. My mom had no idea, and Gary was the one always lecturing us about responsibility and honesty. The hypocrisy was unbelievable. I decided to confront Gary about it. I waited until my mom was out, and I asked him point blank if he was still working. Gary's face went white, and then he exploded. He started yelling about how it was none of my business, and how I was always causing trouble. But I stood my ground. I told him I knew everything and that he was the one causing trouble, not me. The argument got heated, and Gary did something I never thought he would. He raised his hand to me. He didn't hit me, but the threat was clear. I was terrified, but also furious. I told him if he ever tried anything like that again, I'd call the police. After that, I packed a bag and went straight to my dad's house. I told him what happened, and he was livid. He immediately called my mom and told her everything, about Gary's job, the threat, all of it. My mom came over to my dad's house, and we all had a long talk. She was in disbelief. She had no idea about Gary's job, and she was horrified that he'd threatened me. She apologized for not seeing what was going on, and she promised things were going to change. The next day, my mom confronted Gary. She demanded the truth, and when he couldn't give it to her, she told him it was over. She said she couldn't be with someone who lied to her and treated her daughter that way. It was a huge blowout. Gary tried to apologize, to explain, but my mom wasn't having it. She packed up our stuff, and we left. We're staying with my dad for now, while my mom figures out what to do next. As for Gary, he's been trying to contact us, but my mom's not interested. She's realized how toxic he was, not just to me, but to our whole family. It's been a tough week, but I feel like a weight has been lifted. I don't have to pretend anymore, and I don't have to be scared in my own home. Millie's son was supposed to be in my son's class, but she asks to join our group chat, and I say no. She accuses me of being hung up on the past, but then my husband admits he's been in contact with her husband, and I met in college. Before that, he dated Millie from ages 14 to 17. When I first met his family, they all seemed to be in awe of me, and it was quite awkward. So he explained that his family, and most people in his life prior to college, believed him and Millie would be together forever. I was uncomfortable, but he assured me that he loves me and only me. We had a few fights over things his friends said, but ultimately it was clear that we were being silly. I didn't have any problems related to Millie for several years. Everyone seemed to have moved on. Husband and I now have 3 kids. My middle son, 6, is in the same grade as Millie's son. They are in different classes. and I only found out about this after my mother-in-law passively mentioned it. The moms in my son's class created a group chat. A couple days ago, Millie contacted me and asked if I could add her into this group chat, and said that she and her son are having trouble connecting with the other moms/kids, and it would be a huge help. I was a bit confused as to why she was asking me for permission, and how she got my number, but I quickly realized that the other moms probably told her, and out of consideration for me, wanted her to ask me. I'm not sure. Most of these women grew up with Millie, so they know everything. I told her that I can't really stop anyone if they wanted to add her, but I'd rather she not join. Besides, it's a class group chat, and her son isn't in it. She got upset and asked if I'm only saying no because of her history with my husband. I said, well, yeah. She then said I'm being sensitive and petty. I told her that I'm uncomfortable. She said not everything is about me and I'm being selfish. I made a sarcastic comment about protecting my peace before firmly telling her she won't change my mind and that neither she nor her son are my responsibility. Millie got even angrier and said that I'm the only person still hung up over their relationship and that I need to grow up and stop being so insecure. She also accused me of being elitist. She's still at it and will tell anyone that'll listen about how I'm being selfish and how I'm so hung up over the past. My husband thinks we're all being ridiculous. He was joking when he said that, but I don't know. One of the moms in the group chat privately asked me about the whole thing, and she just said, so I really don't know, but they said they weren't going to add her unless I gave my permission. Am I the idiot? Edit. I understand that I'm the jerk. I do feel a little crazy, but I can't deny that I'm not uncomfortable, no matter all the "you do realize he married you" comments. I'll still let the other moms know that they can add her and not to let me stop them, as I'm being a little silly. You can tell me that I did wrong without making assumptions and wishing things on me and my kids. Regardless, I appreciate the advice and plan on learning from this. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're telling me that your husband had a relationship with this girl when they were teenagers, and you're still upset about it. What the actual frick? This wild insecurity of yours is unwarranted. She is right, you are being petty and sensitive. She's done nothing to you. What exactly are you uncomfortable about? This doesn't make any sense. She's done nothing to you. You're gatekeeping this woman from a mom group because she dated your husband 15 plus years ago as freaking teenagers. My God, you're the idiot. Comment 2. Soft. You're the idiot. Not for not accepting her in the group chat, but for making a huge deal of her presence. It's kind of baffling that you would give so much importance to your husband's ex. I would understand if the breakup was new, but damn, you are married to this man and have children with him. He has moved on a long time ago, but you never did. Why does this woman still make you uncomfortable? Now, for the update. Hey Reddit, it's me again with an update on the whole Millie situation. It's been a wild 3 days, and I've got to say, things have taken some unexpected turns. So, after I posted last time, I decided to take the advice I got here. I messaged the other moms and told them they could add Millie to the group chat if they wanted to. I figured I was being silly, and it was time to move on. But that's when things got really weird. The next day, my husband came home from work and told me that he had bumped into Millie at the grocery store. They had a brief chat, and she brought up the group chat drama. My husband, being the peacemaker he is, told her that I had given the green light for her to join. He thought he was helping, but I couldn't help feeling a bit betrayed that he'd discussed it with her without talking to me first. Anyway, Millie got added to the chat, and at first, everything seemed fine. She was friendly, and the other moms were welcoming. But then, the first shocker dropped. One of the moms, let's call her Sarah, sent a message meant for Millie to the whole group by mistake. It was about a playdate that had been arranged for Millie's son and Sarah's daughter. The thing is, Sarah's daughter is in my son's class, not Millie's. I was confused, but I let it slide. The next day, I was at the park with my kids when I saw Millie there with her son. She came over to talk, and things got heated. She accused me of trying to isolate her from the other moms, and said that I was still jealous of her past with my husband. I was taken aback, but before I could respond, she dropped another bombshell. She claimed that my husband had been texting her, and that they had been talking about old times. I was shocked and didn't know what to believe. I confronted my husband when I got home, and he admitted that he had been in touch with Millie, but insisted it was all innocent and just about their kids. I wanted to believe him, but doubt had crept in. The next day, I decided to do some digging. I asked the other moms if they knew anything about Millie and my husband talking. That's when Sarah confessed that she had seen them together at the coffee shop a few weeks ago, looking cozy. She had assumed I knew and didn't want to stir up trouble. I was fuming. I felt like everyone knew something I didn't. I confronted my husband again, and this time he broke down. He confessed that he had been feeling nostalgic and that talking to Millie reminded him of simpler times. He swore nothing physical had happened, but he couldn't deny that he had crossed a line. I was heartbroken. I thought we had moved past all this. I thought our marriage was stronger than this. But here we were, dealing with the ghost of his past relationship all over again. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, the biggest twist of all happened. This morning, I got a call from the school. It turns out that there had been a mix-up with the class lists at the beginning of the year. Due to a clerical error, Millie's son was actually supposed to be in my son's class all along. The school apologized for the mistake and said they would be moving Millie's son into the correct class starting next week. I was stunned. This explained why Millie was so desperate to get into the group chat. She wasn't trying to get close to me or my husband. She was just trying to connect with the parents of her son's actual classmates. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.